Nobody really warns you that some of your friendships are going to have an expiration date. And when that day arrives, it doesn't mean that anyone necessarily did something wrong. Sometimes there is no fight, there's no betrayal, there's no dramatics, just a slow, quiet realization that the friendship was built for a version of you that doesn't really exist anymore. For most of my life, I thought that meant I had failed at something, that a friendship ending was a wound, and a wound meant somebody was the villain, either her or me. But I don't think that way anymore. Today, I want to talk about outgrowing people, how to know when that's actually happening, common red flags in friendships, and the one idea that has saved me more friendship heartbreak than anything else. That different friends need to be placed in different categories, and that the trouble starts the second you forget it. Hey loves, welcome back to the Perfect Sunday podcast, for women who want to grow as people without pretending they don't care how they show up. I'm not an expert, I'm just a woman who's been paying attention and figuring things out along the way. Before we get into today's episode, let's go over today's Sunday obsession. One of my favorite scents or fragrances is vanilla, but I have always found that the right vanilla fragrance is very, very difficult to find. I think that they're usually too sweet or too artificial smelling. Well, because I love body oils, when I saw the Vanilla Verve Vitamin C body oil from Ciclar a few months ago, I bought it and instantly fell in love with it. The scent is the perfect mix of warm, spicy, and sweet, and it is to date my favorite vanilla fragrance. Well, last week I saw that they also have an illuminating body oil with the same scent, so of course I had to buy it. It's definitely got some shimmer and extra glow power to it, maybe a little bit more than I was expecting. But I think that it's going to be a lot of fun to use this summer. It's super hydrating and it smells amazing. So I know that I'm going to enjoy using it, especially on warm days when I'm wearing shorts, swimsuits, and things like that. All right. So lately, I've been having some conversations with friends around the topic of friendship, about some things they are going through, as well as some of my own recent experiences and realizations around the topic. And since navigating friendships in a healthy way is something we all need to be doing, I figured today's as good of a day as any to talk about it. I want to say that this isn't about any one person or friendship, more just my thoughts and observations, patterns I've noticed in myself, and the personal philosophy that I've developed over time. Because the whole point is this: when a friendship stops working, our instinct is to look for the crime. Who did what? Who pulled away first? Who should be the one to apologize? And sometimes there is a crime. Sometimes a friendship has crossed into something you actually do need to walk away from. And we're going to talk about that as well. But most of the time, there is no crime and nobody is in the wrong. There's just two people who grew at different speeds or in different directions, and what's left is the remnants of a friendship that was built for people who don't exist anymore. Although there can definitely be some sad feelings around this, it's not a failure. That's just being a person who's still growing, and I want to spend this time giving you better language for all of it, the no crime outgrowings and the friendships that aren't outgrowings at all, but something else entirely. I don't know if outgrowings is actually a word, so I might not be giving you the proper language, but you know what I mean. So one quick thing before we go any further. I always want to give my little disclaimer that I am not a therapist or a counselor. Everything in this episode is just what I've learned the slow way in my own life, from my own experiences and my own friendships. So please take what's true for you and leave the rest. All right, so let's start at the foundation, because I think we have to fix this one belief for everything else to track. And that belief is a good friendship is supposed to last forever. And if a friendship does end, then it must mean that I've done something wrong. But over time, I've taken that belief apart. And here's the thing that I've had to learn. Most friendships are built around a moment in time. They're built around a shared something, whether it be a job, a neighborhood, a season of being single, having babies at the same age, a hard thing you were both going through, a version of you that needed exactly what that person offered. That shared something is like a bridge. It's what the friendship is standing on. And when the shared something changes, you leave the job, you move on, you heal the thing you were both bonded over, you become someone new. The bridge doesn't always stretch. Sometimes it does. Some friendships have a strong enough foundation that they can renovate themselves beautifully and follow you into the next chapter. But a lot of them were built for that specific life chapter. And that's not a defect. It just is what it is. So when I say I outgrew some friendships, here's what I actually mean. I don't mean that I got better than anyone. I hate the way that word can sound, like you climbed above someone. And that's not it. Outgrowing a friendship means you changed enough that the old shape of the friendship doesn't fit who you are now. Like a sweater you might have loved when you were 19. The sweater isn't bad. There's nothing wrong with it. You didn't fail the sweater. You're just not 19 and it no longer fits you. And here's the thing that I really want to click because it's the part that finally set me free from feeling guilt. Outgrowing people is actually evidence that you are growing. If every friendship you've ever made still fits you perfectly, with no tension, no drift, no friendships that quietly got smaller, that might not be the win it sounds like. It might mean you haven't changed very much. The whole reason a friendship can stop fitting is that you become someone new. The drift is the receipt for your own personal growth, and I believe that we should always be evolving and striving for growth. Now, let me be precise here, because I don't want to hand you permission to just go throw people away. There is a difference between three things, and when they get lumped together, they can cause a lot of unnecessary pain. There's a rough patch, which is where a good friendship hits a hard season and needs a real conversation and some repair. You don't outgrow your way out of a rough patch, but you can talk your way through it. Then there's being hurt, where someone actually wronged you and you feel betrayed, and there's anger. That's not outgrowing either. That's a rupture, and it needs its own honest reckoning. Maybe it can be talked through and forgiven, and maybe not. And then there's outgrowing, where there's no anger, no crime, no rough patch to repair. Sometimes there's just a quiet, a feeling that you're performing a closeness that isn't really there anymore. Then the length of time between reaching out to each other stretches further and further, and you start to develop a sense that you'd be relieved, not sad, if the next plan fell through. That last feeling, the relief, is one of the most honest signals that your body gives you. And we're going to come back to that. But for right now, all I want is for you to put down the idea that an ended friendship is proof of failure, because it is so often the exact opposite. Instead, it's proof that in life you're still in motion. Okay, so if outgrowing is normal, how do you know which friendships are worth keeping, which ones are worth renovating and fighting for, and which ones you're holding on to out of habit or guilt or history? This is where the give and take comes in. And I want to be really practical because friendships should be reciprocal is one of those phrases everybody nods at and nobody can actually use. So let's make it usable. First, what reciprocity is not. It is not a scoreboard. It is not a 50-50 in every single interaction. A real friendship has seasons. There will be months where she is in the hardest stretch of her life and you are mostly carrying the friendship. You're the one texting, showing up, holding her, being there for her through this hard time. And then the wheel turns and it's you in the hard stretch and she carries you through that. That imbalance, taking turns over time, that's not a broken friendship. That's a working one. That's literally what friendship is for. The problem isn't imbalance in a season. The problem is imbalance as a permanent setting. When you are always the one who reaches out, always the one who remembers, always the one who drives across town, or who asks the follow-up questions, who holds the emotional weather of the friendship. And it has been that way for years, with no season where it's turned. That's not a season. That's the structure of the friendship. And the structure is telling you something. So here are the actual tests that I use now. They're like little diagnostic questions, and you can run any friendship through these. 1, does she ask you questions back? This is the simplest, most revealing one. When you talk to her, does the conversation come back to you? Does she ask you how your thing went? Remember your hard week? follow up on your news? Or do you leave every conversation having heard a full report on her life and she knows nothing about what's going on with you? Some people, as lovely as they are, only have a broadcast setting. 2, how does she handle your good news? We're going to go deeper on this one in a couple of minutes, but just notice when something goes right for you, does she light up or does the energy start to go a little bit flat? 3, who is doing the maintenance in the relationship? Who is the one making the phone call, sending the first text, making the plans? If you stopped initiating tomorrow, just stopped. Does she come find you, or does it quietly go silent and stay silent forever? I'm not saying you should run the experiment as a punishment. I'm just saying to picture it honestly, because the answer tells you whether you're in a friendship or whether you're in a one-woman show. And 4, the big one, the one that your body probably already knows the answer to. How do you feel after you hang out or hang up the phone? When you spend time with someone and you come away feeling worse, whether it be heavier, smaller, tired in a way that isn't physical, that is a major red flag. I want you to learn to read that feeling correctly because there are actually 2 kinds of friendship tired. There's the tired you feel after you sat with a friend who's going through something really hard. You cried together, emotions were raw, you held space for each other in a very deep, meaningful way. You might be wrung out, but underneath the tired, there's something warm, something that's connected, you feel close, and that's the good kind of tired. That's the tired of intimacy, and it is a sign of friendship working in exactly the right way. And then there's the other one, the drained, where you leave and you feel oddly empty. And if you really look at why, it's because the whole time you were managing, you were performing a slightly smaller, slightly more careful version of yourself. You were monitoring her mood. You were editing your good news so she wouldn't feel some kind of way about it. You were keeping the conversation safe. You were working, and that's the bad kind of drained. And here's what I want you to know about it. That feeling is not random, and it is not you being too sensitive. It's data. Your nervous system was on light duty the entire time. It was scanning, managing, bracing, quietly in the background the whole time. You were never fully at rest because some part of you didn't feel fully safe to just be there. A real friendship should feel, more often than not, like your nervous system is able to exhale and just be calm and relax. Like you can be the unflattering, unedited, uncustomer service version of you and still feel loved. If you have a friendship where you can never lower your guard and stop the performance, that's worth being honest with yourself about. Not necessarily worth ending the friendship immediately, but definitely worth being honest about it and maybe take some time to evaluate it. So those are the 4 questions that you should be asking yourself. Is she interested in your life? Is she asking questions back? How does she handle your wins? Who's doing the maintenance in the relationship? And how do you feel when you're done spending time with her? You don't need a friend to fail all 4 of these to decide whether or not you want to keep them in your life. Most wonderful people will still be somewhat uneven across all of these questions, but running a friendship through these questions stops you from doing the thing we all do, which is feeling vaguely bad about a friendship for years and never letting yourself look directly at the reason why. But you should start looking directly at it, because the looking is how you figure out who should and shouldn't be inside of your circle. If you remember one thing from this whole episode, I hope that you make it this. We often believe this myth that there's one tier of real friendship, the ride or die, the soulmate friend, like every friend is either a best friend or some lesser version. Most friendship pain doesn't come from someone failing you. It comes from placing them in the wrong category of friendship, because there is a difference between a good friend and a right friend. So let me explain what I mean, because this reframe has saved me more confusion and more hurt than anything else that I've ever learned about friendship. One of my best friends has been by my side through some of the hardest moments of my life. She was at my side for my parents' and my sister's cremations and memorials, and I know that I could count on her to be the first person to show up for me in any tragedy. But if I wanted to go on a trip or just chat on the phone, she's probably going to be the last person I would call. Not because I wouldn't want to do these things with her, but I know she doesn't like going anywhere, and the idea of traveling stresses her out, and she doesn't like talking on the phone. She's been the same way our entire lives, and expecting her to change her personality to fit my needs is completely unrealistic. Someone can be a good friend without being the right friend for every part of your life. But if you hold that expectation that a friend should always be there for you in the way that you need them to be, and they are unable to meet that expectation or to show up the way that you want them to, then it's going to lead to hurt and disappointment. But knowing how to categorize your friends will help save you from making this mistake. First, you have your inner circle, and these are your all-weather friends. For most of us, that's usually a very small circle, maybe 1, 2, or 3 friends if we're lucky. These are the friends that see you at your worst without holding judgment, who you can call at 2 a.m. The give and take with them is real and it's mutual and it has stood the test of time. These are the friendships you have the hard conversations to protect. You don't let an inner circle friendship drift apart. You're willing to fight for it and do what needs to be done to repair it. Then you have good company friends. And these are the genuinely delightful people who are wonderful to spend an evening with. You go to brunch with them, a walk, or maybe a concert with this group. The friendship is real. It is just not that deep, and it's not built to be deep. You don't take your divorce drama to a good company friend. They're there for a fun time, not the hard shit. And that's not a flaw in her. The mistake is bringing your deepest hurt to a good company friend and then feeling abandoned when she's out of her depth. She's not cold, she's just not an inner circle friend. Next, you have the context friends. These are the friends that a situation gave you. So you have a work friend, the gym friend, the other moms in the pickup line, the neighbor. The friendship is real and warm inside of the context. It lives in that shared room. And the thing is, a context friend usually stays in the context. So when you leave the job, when you switch gyms, when the kids change schools, the friendship often quietly ends, and we shouldn't take that personally. Last, there are your history friends. So these are the people you've known forever. The bond is years and years long. You don't necessarily have that much in common anymore. If you were to meet them today, you might not even become friends. But she holds chapters of your story that no new friend will ever be able to hold. And the mistake here is the opposite of the others. It's expecting a history friend to also be an inner circle friend today, forcing present-day intimacy into a friendship whose real gift is the timeline. You can let a history friend just be that, a keeper of your past, seen randomly over the years and loved warmly without the pressure of being current. The history is the whole point, and that can be enough. So I think that there are 2 ways that you can think about friendship. One is that friendship is like a filing cabinet, and you take your friends and you categorize them, and you place them into the right drawers. And then the other way, which I really like, and which is probably the easiest way for me to explain it, is this. In life, we need a rainbow of friends. Every friend is a different color. Some friends are yellow, they're light, fun, and are always there to remind you not to take life so seriously. Some friends are blue, they're there for the deep stuff. They can sit with you through the hard times and the raw emotions. Some friends are green. They're practical, grounded, slow and steady, and the voice of reason. Probably the person that you would call for good advice. Other friends might be red. They're super passionate. They're there to fight for you, and they will always protect you. Not only is it unfair to try and make one friend into a color that they're not, you cannot expect one person to be responsible for every version of you. And the good thing is, if you have a friend in a category or drawer that they don't really belong in, you can always move them into a different drawer rather than end the friendship. So the takeaway is that a good friend will love and accept you and be there for you in the capacity that they are able to be. But sometimes the right friend is the color you need at that moment in your life. So we've talked about the no crime, the no villain version of friendship ending. the slow drift, the drawer mix up. But I feel it would be a disservice to end today thinking that the only honest answer to a hard friendship is to let it slowly fade away. That is the right answer some of the time, but it's not the right answer all of the time. Some friendships are red flags. Like we already talked about, some friendships end and there's nothing really wrong. There is just a slow drifting apart. You may leave feeling a little flat, a little tired, but not afraid and not diminished, not damaged. You can walk away without anger because there isn't really anything to be angry about. A red flag friendship is one where something is wrong, a pattern, not a bad day, not one rough conversation, a pattern of behavior that consistently takes from you in a way that no friendship is supposed to take. So here are 5 red flags to look out for. You don't need to find all 5 of them. One that's been going on for a long time is enough to take seriously. Red flag number 1 is she is actively trying to make you feel smaller. The little jabs, the eye rolls, the jokes that always seem to land on you. The voice that goes a touch sneering or saying something negative when you bring up your goals, your interests, the things that matter to you. The friend who reliably has a negative response every time that you share something good. Red flag number 2 is what you tell her in private doesn't stay private. The thing that you might have cried to her about shows up later in someone else's mouth. The vulnerable thing that you confessed becomes ammunition in a later argument. Something you shared is brought up to embarrass you or to win a point in a future argument. A friendship has a basic security promise. What I give you in trust, you keep. When that promise breaks, and especially when it breaks more than once, you are in a friendship that is not safe for you. Red flag number 3, she doesn't respect your no's. So you said you can't talk on Sunday mornings. She calls you anyways. You asked her not to bring something up, and she keeps bringing it up. You set a boundary kindly more than once, and the boundary keeps getting tested. She is telling you that her comfort matters more to her than your stated needs, and that information is allowed to change how close you let her be to you. Red flag number 4 is she is jealous of you. The thing about jealousy is it's rarely loud. A jealous friend almost never says it. So here's what it tends to look like instead. She is wonderful when you're struggling, so warm, so present, so good in a crisis. And then she is noticeably cooler or distant when you're winning and happy. She goes quiet whenever you have good news. When you want to celebrate a win, she's never around, and she doesn't offer any kind of congratulations. She is subtly competing with you or finds the small flaws in any good thing going on in your life. And red flag number 5 is that it's been a one-way for years. This is a red flag version of the give and take that we talked about earlier. So I do want to be clear because I don't want you to confuse this with the normal seasonal imbalance that we talked about earlier. Remember, uneven seasons are fine. You carry her through her hard year, and then she carries you through yours. The wheel keeps turning over time, and that friendship is working exactly as it's designed to. What I'm talking about now is the friendship where the wheel never turns at all, where it has always been you who does the initiating of every plan, you remembering every date that matters, you driving across town, you asking the follow-up questions, you showing up for her events, and her not doing any of those things for you. So when you see these signs, actual red flags, what do you do? I'm not one to tell you what to do, and you have to sit with yourself and decide what it is that you want to accept inside of your life. But this is where it's probably best to end a friendship. Ending a red flag friendship does not have to be a big scene. I know the picture in our heads is of a long breakup speech or a dramatic conversation. But in real life, most red flag friendships end the same way that most outgrowings do, quietly. You stop accepting the invitations. You stop returning the text at the same temperature. You don't pour gasoline on it. You just stop adding kindling. And the friendship goes out. There is no fight required. You're also allowed to withdraw access without any type of explanation. You do not owe a friend who has been unsafe with your trust or who has been steadily making you feel smaller, some beautifully articulated exit speech. The instinct to explain, to make her understand why she's losing you, is almost always the wrong instinct because the friend you are describing is rarely ever going to receive that in the way that you hope. She's going to make you the bad guy or push back or pull other people into this fight. You can give yourself the closure you need without trying to extract it from her. So your understanding is enough, and you do not need her to agree with you for it to be over. And if a clear, real ending is called for, just keep it brief and unambiguous. You do not have to defend your stance, you do not have to justify it, and you do not have to argue. And if she demands details, just know that sometimes brevity is a kindness to her and to you. And the last thing I'll say on this is that you are allowed to grieve a friendship that needed to end. Ending it does not mean it never mattered. It just means that it has stopped mattering more than what it is now costing. So my challenge for you this week, if you're up to it, is to pick the one friendship that's been quietly sitting on your mind. I'm sure one immediately popped up before I even finished that sentence, and I want you to do just one thing with it. Name its true drawer or give them a color. Honestly, not the drawer or color that you wish they were in or where they were 5 years ago. Put them in the drawer they're actually in today. Inner circle, good company, context, or history. That's it. Don't text anyone. Don't end anything. Don't make any announcements. Just let yourself privately, honestly, tell the truth about where that friendship actually lives. Because here's what I have found. The hurt was never really about her. The hurt was about the gap. The distance between what she is and what you kept needing her to be. And the second you name the real drawer, the gap closes. The expectation comes down to meet the reality, and what's left is something so much lighter than what you've been carrying. So name the drawer, then notice how much quieter your mind feels. So in closing, 4 things I want you to carry into the week. 1 is outgrowing people is not a character flaw. 2, friendship is give and take. 3, different friends belong in different drawers. And 4, some friendships aren't outgrowings, they're red flags. If this episode found you when you needed it, please send it to one woman in your life who you think would also enjoy it. If you haven't already, please go follow the show, leave a 5-star review and a kind comment. It helps the show grow, and I truly appreciate it. You can find me on Instagram at Monty_Wheeler. Please leave a message or a comment. I always love hearing from you guys, and I read every single message. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday with me, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Love you.